All right, we're good. Actually, no. Yep. Okay. Give it a few moments and then start talking, okay?
Okay. Hello and welcome to the St. Charles City County Library's virtual program on Scotland, the Lion in the North. My name is Shauna and I work at the Augusta branch of the library. The Scots have their own music, dance, food, drink, and language. They live amongst wonderful scenery and live in interesting cities. Scotland has a Ferris wheel for canal boats, and they have a mythical serpent that attracts 1 million tourists a year, enriching Scotland's economy by 31 million. We're happy to have you join us this evening for an armchair tour through Scottish countryside and culture. And yes, you will find out where in St. Louis you can dine on a tasty sheep's stomach stuffed with oatmeal. Our presenter, Doug Schneider, graduated from Ivy League Brown University with a bachelor's in history. He also graduated from the University of London with a master's in linguistics. Doug is an author, a St. Louis walking tour guide, and he's a Route 66 enthusiast. Doug is also a Scottish country dance teacher for the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society. He helps teach the Highland Mist Scottish country dancers who dance in Cottleville here in St. Charles County. So let's get started. Don't forget to use the chat feature to answer some questions during tonight's presentation. Welcome, Doug, and thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Going to share my sound. I'm coming up here and clicking the share button, and I'm screen sharing. So I need to tell, come here, this meeting's being recorded. Okay. Slideshow from beginning. And there's a question mark here. Shauna, can you see the question mark? And can you hear me? Thumbs up. What is the Latin name for Scotland? And you guys are muted out there, I hope. And then you can sort of shout out to your muted selves. But the Latin name for Scotland is Caledonia. And I'm going to play you a segment of a song called Caledonia. I want you to think about the lyrics, what they're saying about Scotland, and what the photos tell you about Scotland. So here we go. The song is Caledonia.
I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away. So I've been telling old stories, singing songs that make me think about where I came from. That's the reasons why I seem so far away today. Oh, and let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
So what do the lyrics tell us about Scotland? And what do the photos tell us? The lyrics tell us that the Scots feel a deep connection to Scotland. And the photos tell us that Scotland is empty. But that's not exactly right, because Scotland is actually emptied. It's empty now, but it wasn't empty before. So let's go, we'll get a little insight into that. Scotland, the Lion in the North. There's the lion, and I'm Doug Schneider. So we'll start with some Scottish flags. The Saltire. Here we have somebody with the Saltire t-shirt. And this flag first flew in 832 AD. And here it is again. And it's also known as the Cross of St. Andrew, and it appears in the Union Jack. It's those blue sections that you see and the white cross going through the center in the Union Jack. And here we have somebody carrying it in a little walking thing. The Lion Rampant of Scotland is a special flag. And this flag is restricted, an act of parliament, to just people who represent the monarchy in Scotland. So when you see this flag flying on a Scottish building, there's some connection to the monarchy, and the monarchy happens to own an awful lot of castles in Scotland. So we're going to go back in time, Scottish stone circles. And we're going to do this one at Tomnaveri. And the thing about Scottish stone circles, unlike English stone circles, is that these are related to the moon, not to the sun. And how you can tell a Scottish stone circle is that it has a recumbent stone, a stone on its side. So here we are at Tomnaveri, and there you can see the recumbent stone, and this will tell you something about the moon and moon patterns. Skara Brae has a stone circle, has actually a whole little village. The same thing here, you've got a recumbent stone. Callanish, it's an interesting stone circle built a long time ago, 2,000 years before Stonehenge, and it was used for prehistoric religious rituals. And here we are, the sunset or sunrise here, and here the people are in the center of Callanish. And here's an aerial view, so you can see it's a lot. There must have been a lot of activity there at Callanish. So we're gonna move ahead in history to the wall, and the wall that comes to your mind, and my mind first, is Hadrian's Wall. And we've all heard of Hadrian's Wall, but we haven't heard much about the Antonine Wall. So Hadrian's Wall, you can see here in the map, is down here, separating basically England from Scotland. But the Antonine Wall begun, so that's 20 years later. The Romans discovered that they needed to separate the lowland Scots from the highland Scots. So they built this wall here across this neck of land in Scotland. Now, Hadrian's Wall is made of stones, so you can see it, it's still there, but Antonine Wall was not made of stone. It was turf and wood, and turf is the Scottish word for sod. So it's weathered away, and the Hadrian's Wall is still around. And those Highlanders were pesky back in the day, and the Romans had to build all these forts along that wall because the Highlanders were so pesky back in the day. And here is what you would see if you went to look at part of the Antonine Wall. Not very impressive like the Hadrian's Wall. Well, talked about Scotland being emptied, and they were emptied by the Highland clearances. And this is a landscape that used to be a house, but those people had to leave. They were cleared out. And this is a sad chapter in Scottish history. 30% of Scots lived in the Highlands. By the time of the 20th century, just 8%. So that's what, 20%, 22% of the population had to move, okay? And here we have an example, this woman being forced to move. This is a reenactment, of course, and they're burning her house down, so she has to leave. And the landowners evicted people. They evicted people, sent them off to other places, for example, New Zealand, Australia, United States, or just to the coast, because they wanted to replace the people with sheep. This was the idea that sheep were more productive and beneficial than people. So these 70,000 people were replaced by sheep. And that's why when you heard that song, you just saw a lot of emptiness in Scotland. Well, Scottish textiles, there's sheep there. So you figure that Scotland's going to make a lot of textiles. The first textile is Paisley, which you can see doesn't look very Scottish, but it is actually named after a Scottish town, but it comes from Persia. And it just happened to be just popular. And the Scots just made lots and lots of paisley cloth, and they still do it today. And that's the town of Paisley gave the name to the patterns. And here we are in Paisley. This is the Abbey, 12th century. And this is the inside of the Abbey at Paisley, Scotland. Cashmere, recognized as a wool product. And there were 200 woolen mills in Scotland in the late 19th century, making cashmere. But the cashmere fiber wasn't coming from those sheep in Scotland, it was coming from Asia. And they're still importing it from Asia. And here's someone wearing cashmere, the focus here on it being a natural feel. Harris tweed, if you can see my photo, you can see a Harris tweed jacket. And Harris tweed is also being worn by this guy here. And it's hand woven by islanders in the Outer Hebrides, not by anybody else, not by a machine, worn, just hand woven. And then it's also finished in the Outer Hebrides, and it's made from virgin wool that is all handled in the Outer Hebrides. And here we have an example of a loom with the Harris tweed cloth, and it's protected by an act of Parliament, which was done in 1993. I'm not sure if that's the British Parliament or the Scottish Parliament, but in any event, 1993, it became protected. So you will find this is the thing that you will find in your Harris tweed jacket that shows you it is Harris tweed. You'll see hand woven in the Outer Hebrides there, this label, and the orb is another sign that this is authentic Harris tweed. Oh, how about some Scottish animals? You saw some sheep. Ah, the Scottish national animal. All right, let's see, this animal, I'm gonna give you some clues, some descriptions, and see if you can guess what is the Scottish national animal. It's white, okay? It has the body and head of a horse. Has a long flowing mane and tail, and has a single spiraled horn in the middle of the forehead. Adopted in the 1300s. What animal is this? There you go, the unicorn. The unicorn is the Scottish national animal. And think a little bit about this. How much does it cost to feed a unicorn? You don't have to feed a unicorn. How's a unicorn? Build a barn for it? Nope, you don't need to do that. It's the cheapest national animal you can have because it's all fictional. All right, but here it is in the Scottish coat of arms. You'll see two unicorns, one on the left, one on the right, and then you'll see the Scottish national motto in Latin, and we put that in English: no one provokes me with impunity. Okay, so that's the national animal. But they have a lucrative animal in Scotland. This animal, you heard before, attracts 1 million tourists a year. Adds $31 million to the Scottish economy, and it has been cited 1,156 times since 1934 in the Loch Ness Register. So here's, quote, a photo taken in 1934. This is the photo that you have probably seen because it's the most broadcast photo of the Loch Ness Monster. The most recent picture taken by 2 Canadian tourists in April of this year is this picture here that you see. And not a very good picture of the Loch Ness Monster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my photo that I took. I think it's a pretty good, nice picture of the Loch Ness Monster there. Well, Scottish sheep, There are lots and lots of sheep. The blackface use their excellent mothers, and they defend their offspring against any threats. And you can see what they're going to defend with, those curly horns. And so the next type of sheep is the Cheviot, and they do well in the bleak windswept conditions of Scotland, strong constitution. And here we have Cheviot sheep. Now, Scottish cattle. They don't say cattle, they don't say cow, they say coo. A Highland coo has long horns and a shaggy coat. It's hardy, it withstands the conditions in Scotland, and it's reared primarily for beef. So here we have it. Primarily for beef, but look at it. It's kind of cute. It's kind of cute. Yes, it's an adorable addition to your farm, and lots of farmers want them just because they are cute. And of course, they can sell them for meat. The Aberdeen Angus, you've probably heard the word Angus. It's muscular. Their meat has marbling, which means there's fat along with the flesh, and makes it for tender and juicy eating. And here is the Aberdeen Angus. And here are some places in St. Louis where you can get Angus beef, quite a variety of places. And it's usually a little more expensive than regular beef. And there are giraffes in Edinburgh, speaking of animals, but there we have the giraffes in Edinburgh. So we go to dogs, and here are some surprises for me. The collie, okay, I'm not too surprised at the collie. The deerhound, I hadn't really heard of it. Scottish deerhound, that's fine. But the golden retriever is a Scottish dog. It's a Scottish dog. And of course, we have the Scottie, the Scottish Terrier. But another animal, which quite different, is a Byther. And this Byther, here is a statue of a Byther. And you got to beware of a real Byther. It breathes fire. It has a venomous sting. And the only way to deal with that sting is to run and jump into the nearest loch, and you'll get cured. So if you got to be near a loch all the time if you're worrying about getting bitten by a Byther. In honor of the Byther, there is a beer called Byther Fire. And you see this fire because they breathe, Bythers breathe fire. And you see that yellow thing around the neck of the beer bottle? Stronger than a high five in the face from a polar bear. 75% alcohol by volume. That's why there's a warning label on the bottle of beer. So if you're heading over to Scotland, make sure you read warning labels. The Kelpies, they are interesting animals. They're aquatic, and they shapeshift. So you don't quite know what they will look like, but watch out, they will trick and drag you into the water and drown you. So you have to watch out for the Kelpies, and they like to drown children. Here are some Kelpie statues lit up at night. Here they are during the day, 2 Kelpies. And sculptor really says that these sculptures are celebrating horses. And horses played a huge role in the canals. Canals are the highways of the Industrial Revolution. And you'll see that those statues are by a canal. And here is a message that you should bow down your strong heads to taste the water. There's a Kelpie and the canal. So Scottish canals are important. They've got lots and lots of canals, lots of people living on boats. Here is a traditional boat, and with the horse to carry it along. And there's 20,000 people in the United Kingdom living on the canals in the United Kingdom. That, of course, includes England. So here's an example. These are Scottish canal boats, and they are not used so much for cargoes. Nowadays, people work from boat. Here in St. Louis, people work from home. But over in Scotland, people work from boat because you can do your job through the internet. So here are some contemporary Scottish canal boats. And the canals usually meet each other, but here in the Falkirk, they had a problem because there was that big difference in landscape. And they built the world's only rotating boat lift. And in 5 minutes, you can get your boat from one canal to the other canal. Here is the boat lift. And if you look down in the bottom, you'll see this red canal boat. That's going to be lifted up. Going to be lifted up. There it goes, because it's going from one canal, sitting in one canal, going to the higher canal, from the lower to the higher. When it gets up there, it will now be able to just travel on in the different canal. This is the Falkirk wheel, the only canal wheel in the world. Well, from canals, we'll go to Edinburgh. And we'll focus on Edinburgh. It's a UNESCO City of Literature. Literature. Well, let's remind people of famous people who have written books, including J.K. Rowling, and going back, of course, to Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Burns makes every Scottish heart beat happily when they think of Robert Burns, and Arthur Conan Doyle, so forth. So, City of Literature, but Walter Scott gets a memorial. These other guys didn't get a memorial. He gets a nice memorial. And here's their National Library. Quite impressive. And I'm not, there must be some way to get to those books on the upper shelves, because we're actually on the second floor of the library here. But it's a UNESCO City of Literature. And Edinburgh has a festival. And this festival is, I'm not sure you can compare it to any other festival in the world, because on any given day in August, you will have your choice of 65 or more different events. 65 or more. 65 is the lower figure, because all these festivals are going on at once in Edinburgh. An international festival, the Fringe Festival. The Fringe is for really offbeat stuff. International festival is more common. You have an International Book Festival, International Film Festival, they have an art festival, and you have the Royal Military Tattoo, all going on in the month of August. Your many choices each day. So when I was there and it was festival time, I chose 3 events. The first event was Shakespeare's As You Like It. I'd never seen it before. The second event really almost shocked me. They had the University of Rhode Island there doing a play, a musical play actually, about Rhode Island getting its independence from Great Britain. That was there in Edinburgh. And then Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. I had never seen Dr. Faustus, so I wanted to catch that show. Now, if you've got 65 or more events, where are you going to hold them? As You Like It was in a very nice theater. The University of Rhode Island was in a very nice pub. And Christopher Marlowe was in the municipal bus maintenance garage. You just have to go wherever there's space to set up a little stage and an audience. So when you go outside rather than inside to a festival event, Edinburgh has extinct volcanoes. It's actually framed by them, one on each end of the city. This is Arthur's Seat at one end of the city, and here's Castle Rock at the other end. And Edinburgh Castle, as you could imagine, would be on Castle Rock. It goes back to the 12th century. It's served many purposes. It's been a prison. It's been a military garrison. It's not a royal castle. It's a castle that does other things, other functions. Here's a view of the castle. And it's got the crown jewels of Scotland, views of the city, and it's a symbol of Scotland's history, not kept up very well. Here is a crown from the crown jewels of Scotland. And they host the Royal Military Tattoo every August. And the tattoo is quite a show, quite a show. Massed pipes and drums, and performers invited from all around the world with a largely military focus. So they would have like the Air Force band from the United States would get invited, not an ordinary band, but say a military band would get invited for the tattoo. So here we have lots of Scots, lots of bagpipes out in front of the castle. And here we have them in lines, and you can see the audience in the stands here. Here's another example. And again, all these different groups have some military connection. It's another view with the searchlights going up. Royal Military Tattoo. Here's some dancers lined up. And the climax of the evening is a lone piper on the battlements playing a pibroch in memory of dead comrades in arms. And we'll listen to a pibroch in a minute. And here is a lone piper ending the show. And that show is ending. It's probably 11 o'clock at night. At night, this is night in Scotland, because it's so far north. You can take pictures. You don't need a flash at 11 o'clock at night in August in Scotland. Well, Scotland, we've heard about how enthusiastic the Scots are about their country. And one way they show it is they like to tattoo Scottish stuff on them, on their bodies. So I'm going to show you some Scottish body tattoos as we listen to more of Dougie MacLean and Caledonia.
I am moved and I've kept on moving, proved the points that I needed proving, lost the friends that I needed losing, found others on the way. I have tried and I've kept on trying, I've stolen dreams, yes, there's no denying. I've traveled hard sometimes with conscience flying, somewhere in the wind.
Oh, let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I ever had.
Okay. All right. So when we think of Scottish music, we think of Highland pipes. And here are the bagpipe basics. You have these parts to the bagpipe: the chanter, the blowpipe, the bag, the drones, two drones, or three drones. Two are tenor drones and one is a great drone. You look at the blowpipe, and this is how you fill the bag with air. And there's a valve inside that keeps the air from flowing back out the bag after you blow into the bag. Of course, you don't want to waste your breath. So that's the blowpipe. Then up here we have the drones, and that creates this humming sound in the background rather than the tune. The two tenor drones and the great drones. Now the chanter, this is where you get the melody notes, and you hold it vertically, and there are 8 holes in the chanter, and you finger the chanter. And then there's the bag, which is a bladder. Originally was a bladder, and nowadays synthetic materials, which are more airtight than a bladder. And the bagpipe history. Oh, you look tired today, Scotty. My neighbor was pounding on my cabin door at 3 o'clock this morning. Lucky for him, I was still up playing my bagpipes. Okay, so they've in various places, forms in many places around the world, and how they arrived in Scotland is a bit of a mystery. They're closely identified with Scotland nowadays, but they could have been anywhere. A lot of the Mediterranean countries have pipes like bagpipes. First mentioned as an instrument of war, 1549. They replaced trumpets. Because trumpets weren't as inspiring as bagpipes, And bagpipes could be heard up to 10 miles away. So you could also scare your opponents with the bagpipes. And then we did have a little uprising in Scotland led by Bonnie Prince Charlie. He lost the Battle of Culloden in 1746. The government in London wanted to crush this rebellion. How are they going to crush it? Take away the bagpipes and take away the kilts. Yes. So an act of the British Parliament, carrying of weapons such as bagpipes, wearing of kilts, penal offense. You go to prison if you play a bagpipe or if you wear a kilt in 1746. It's against the law. So it's illegal, forbidden, prohibited. But they repealed the act 40 years later in 1786. So much so that Scots had to go and dig up their trash heaps to see what their kilts used to look like, because they hadn't seen one for 40 years, but now they're going to be back and, as you know, still being used. So bagpipe tunes, we've got a whole bunch. The pibroch, which I mentioned before, is the classical. We have dance tunes, which are hornpipes, jigs, reels, and strathspeys. Laments, slow airs, and marches are other types of tunes. And we have modern tunes for bagpipes. So let's listen to a bit of pibroch, this guy here. So nothing that really catches you, at least nothing that really catches me in this classical bagpipe music, but that's been around for many times. We also have bagpipes used for modern music. Here we go.
Here we go!
Oops, sorry. Let's go back. I'll play that again. No, let me go back. Whoa, I gave the name away. Last feud. Here we go. Modern music on the bagpipes.
Here we go!
Okay, so name that tune. That was We Will Rock You, played by the Red Hot Chili what? Okay, you're muted, so I can't hear you. You say the Red Hot Chili what? And that's the Red Hot Chili Pipers. Somebody was saying peppers. Nope, the Red Hot Chili Pipers in Scotland. And in Scotland, you'll find palm trees. They grow in the western part of Scotland because of the Gulf Stream with warm tropical water coming up to the area. And here you have a Scottish town with palm trees on the western side of Scotland. And there's the Gulf Stream bringing that warm water up to Scotland. Here's some more palm trees on a little Scottish village. Yes. Scotland's main languages. Well, okay, what comes to mind? Oh, here you can see an example of two of them. And those you just saw English and you saw Gaelic. There's also Scots and there's also British Sign Language. So these are the main languages of the country of Scotland. So English we're familiar with. Scots is kind of English as spoken in Scotland. So for the word house, you have hoose, but Gaelic, which is your traditional language of the Scots, not related at all to English. So English down becomes doon. In Scots, yes becomes I. And so you have English and Scots resembling each other and Gaelic standing on its own. And here is Rosemary. She's going to discuss her childhood for you.
Smisha Rosemary, chaim hokal an leis de jes an a balabik idir vil gearna mónu. Va galig ag mahad, a charok galig ag mavahad, agus leishin chaim hokal an a dachi far a roshin klech guk beer le fat na chiche. A chaganyan sin chaim either tron a skol, agus hion sich me galig go art ide. Chum an oorsin siachat imidoch bliana chicask trevian na galig, agus an oorsin elisach na galig, agus elisach inat an galig, it figalappe.
So as you can tell, her mother spoke Gaelic, but her father didn't want her to learn, or the child to learn Gaelic. She had to wait till after she got out of school to learn Gaelic. And as you can tell, she's a very good speaker of it. But British Sign Language interested me because we have this guy, this American guy from Connecticut, Thomas Hopkins Godelay, who created a college for deaf people. And he knew that the Scots and everybody in Europe were much better at educating deaf people. And Godelay had, his neighbor had a deaf daughter, so he was concerned. And he decided that he would go to Scotland to study deaf education. And he left Connecticut, went to Scotland, and here is the British Sign Language. So look, for example, L like that, and you can see M and so forth. And he got to Scotland, and the Scots weren't very cooperative. So Godelay went to France. And here's the French Sign Language, which you may recognize as the American Sign Language. And you see only one hand. Luckily for us, he did not learn the British Sign Language, which requires two hands, which means if you are deaf and you want to talk, you can have an ice cream cone and talk. But if you're British, you can't. You have to use both hands. You're stuck. So there's a lot more flexibility. Life is easier using a one-handed sign language. And the kilt, oh yes, the great kilt, which came before the kilt you know today, which is the walking kilt. The end of the 16th century, they stopped wearing cloaks and they pretty much wore their cloak as a kilt. And it's the upper half can be draped over the shoulder, brought up over the head, kind of serves for different weathers, things. And it requires you with a flat surface to lay out a big rectangular piece of cloth, a giant rectangular piece of cloth, and put these little folds in it. And then you put a belt under it, and then you lie down in it and wrap the belt around you, and you'll have your kilt, which is flat in the front. And here is what the front looks like. You can wear it over your shoulder. And the back is what you can see is what you would recognize as a kilt, but there's no sewing involved here. It's just one piece of cloth, this entire one. And here's a front view of that great kilt. So now the walking kilt comes along, early 18th century, and it resembles, as you can see, the bottom half of the great kilt, and it is sewn. So those are all sewn kilts here. And we're going to look at this guy, what this guy's wearing in his sock right there. And that is a dagger. The Scots wear daggers in their socks. So be very careful when you're speaking to a guy wearing a kilt. You just might have a dagger in case he disagrees with what you're talking about. And then we, of course, want to know when a New York City pipe band parades up Fifth Avenue and passes over a ventilation grill, this is the view you get from the guys marching up Fifth Avenue. Scottish sports, curling, yes, 1541, first mentioned, went to the Winter Olympics. Here we are in Creve Coeur, Missouri. The ice arena has curling. Golf was born in Scotland, St. Andrews Links, home of golf, and the original course was in the year 1400. The new course, 1895, that's the new course. Yes, here's the old course at St. Andrews. Heavy athletics, these are the ones that you see in regard to Scottish games. You are heavy athletes. And here are the various activities. The stone put, instead of a metal sphere, you get a stone. Here's the caber, which is like tossing a telephone pole. Wait for distance. Throw this and see how far you can throw it. Hammer throw. This is, you'll be rotating and send it off on its way. Wait for height. This person is going to pick this up and throw it over his head. And here is somebody throwing wait for height. And then the sheaf toss, that's a bunch of hay, and that also gets thrown up over your head and over the bar, and that doesn't look like it's going to make it. Football is what they call soccer in Scotland, and it's the #1 sport. And the big rivalry is England. That rivalry first happened in 1872. And I used to live in England, used to live in London, and I always needed to know whether the Scots were coming in to play England, because you get cautious. You get cautious because the Scots get rambunctious. These guys are sitting on a lion at Trafalgar Square. Yes, they are being rambunctious. And in some cases, just too many of them around, and they get in my way. So I would just be careful, just to do not to just go out doing anything unnecessary when the Scots are in town and they are playing England. And here's a guy, a little confusing, but he is in London. They're playing England. Scottish drinks, what comes to mind? Scottish whiskey. What's wrong with this slide? The spelling. There's no E in Scottish whiskey. And whiskey means the water of life. And it adds $8 billion to the Scottish economy every year. There's the oldest working distillery, 1763. And if you want some of their rare whiskeys, you're going to pay over $1,000 for a bottle. And here's an example. Of course, there are other whiskeys that not cost like that much. Now, the type of whiskey depends on where it comes from. The flavor changes depending on which part of Scotland it was distilled in. You see Highland, Lowland, Speyside, the islands, Islay, and Japan does whiskey, and Israel does whiskey. So the region makes the taste different. But we're going to mention Highland Mist. It's a blended Scotch whiskey, and blended sounds like a harmless word, but it's not a harmless word, because it means this whiskey could be made from anything. If it said Scotch whiskey, it would be barley, but blended, it could be anything. And it could be, you don't know what you're getting. You would expect barley, but it could be anything else. Scottish soda, yes, they do have soda. This is IRNBRU. It's their other national drink. Originally spelled IRON, BREW, but there was a lawsuit. So they now spell it IRNBRU. And it's kind of like Dr. Pepper. Nobody knows the recipe for this fizzy and bright orange drink. Scottish food, well, what comes first? Haggis. Haggis, get heart, liver, and lungs, mince it up with onion, oatmeal, and suet, mix it with stock, and boil it in the sheep's stomach. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Mainly served on holidays. And here's an example of haggis accompanied by, you can see there 2 bowls of mashed potatoes, which are called tatties. And here are the neeps, which are turnips. That goes with haggis. And we used to serve it at the Scottish Arms. Scottish Arms, rest in peace, just closed a few months ago here in St. Louis. It was our only Scottish restaurant. They tried. They actually tamed the haggis down, figuring they would sell it more if it matched American taste, but they took it off the menu. It wasn't making any profit. The Scots like to have a little fun, haggis crossing on the roads. So you got to watch out for wild haggis. And the national dish of Scotland, served on holidays. What's the American national dish served on holidays? It's the American equivalent of haggis. That's it right there. That's American haggis. And what is that? Turkey giblets, the heart, the gizzard, and the liver, celery, onion, spices, dry bread cubes, chicken broth, all baked in a dead animal's carcass. Yes, and we love it. So some reason we don't love haggis, but we do love turkey dressing. So the restaurant, although it's closed, it's mentioned that what they did sell lots of was Scottish eggs or Scotch eggs. And here you see the Scotch eggs, and it's colorful and it's intriguing. And it is a boiled egg wrapped in sausage meat, and it's encrusted in breadcrumbs. It's deep fried, and you can eat it as a snack at a picnic. You eat it in a pub. It's very versatile and it's colorful. Better off red? Well, we're in Scotland. We're talking about red. We mean red hair. Yes, better off red. Scottish people are more likely to have red hair than any other ethnic group. Scotland, remember, cloudy, drizzly, cloudy, and drizzly. Here's a red hair family. And if you have red hair, your genetics allow you to produce your own vitamin D. You don't need the sun. You don't need the sun. So the redheads will thrive nicely in Scotland. Here's another redhead. And so this is a genetic advantage compared to other hair colors. Scottish holidays, Hogmanay, December 31st. And that goes back, it's a Viking celebration, and it's the end of the year. And they were noting that kind of the shortest day, well, not really, but in any event, it was on the 31st of December, and a big deal, a big deal. No, a giant deal in Scotland. So much of a deal that Christmas was not a holiday. Hogmanay was. Christmas wasn't a holiday until I think 1957. But Hogmanay has always been a big, for centuries. And the everybody celebrates, and they all sing Auld Lang Syne. And we sing Auld Lang Syne, we only sing the first verse, but the second verse tells you to do something with your hands. And what it says is, and here's a hand, my trusty freer, and gie's a hand of thine. We'll tackle right good Willie Walk for Auld Lang Syne. So these are people, these are strangers. They just happen to be out on a street celebrating Hogmanay, and they get in a line and they walk forward and they walk back with our hands linked for Hogmanay. And then Hogmanay becomes the end of the year, and you start New Year's Day with first footing. So you've been up all this time, you haven't gone to bed, and you're waiting for the first person to come across your threshold of your home. The first person. And that person will bring you good luck or bad luck, depending on whether they are male, dark, and handsome, and carrying a gift. Dark in Scotland does not mean skin. Dark in Scotland means hair. So male with dark hair, handsome, and carrying a gift. Here we go. Look like this guy is going to bring you good luck. There's his dark hair. So in some cases, that guy you just saw, it's probably arranged for a whole bunch of people in that neighborhood for him to come and first foot their house because everybody wants the good luck. Burns Night is January 25th, and this is when you'll have a haggis, and you will have everybody address the haggis. This is a poem from Robert Burns: "Fair far your honest sonsy face, great chieftain of the pudding race, aboon them ye take your place, paunch tripe or therm, real are ye worthy of a grace as lang as my arm." And there we have it with the tatties in that case, and the whiskey. Samhain, October 31st, we call it Halloween. Let ghosts roam the streets. So children go out on the streets, they have to disguise themselves because of these malevolent spirits that are roaming around. And they carry neep lanterns. This is a rutabaga. And a pumpkin, as you know, not that difficult to carve, but a rutabaga takes some effort, but that's what the Scots carry around. And Christmas is in small letters again, because 1958, it was just a normal working day, just a normal working day, just like December 8th. But December 25th was no big deal, but it became a holiday in 1958. So our Scots tightwads, Jay Leno has a joke that his Scottish grandparent didn't refrigerate soda pop because that would save electricity. And then we have the story of the Scotsman and his wife walking past a swanky new restaurant. Did you smell that food? It smells absolutely incredible. And that kind-hearted Scotsman thought he will treat his wife. He will treat his wife because she smelled that wonderful food. So what did he do? He walked her past the restaurant again. Dang. Tightwad's Castle, we know this tightwad. There he is. That is Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge McDuck. A lot of royal castles in Scotland. Yep, but Holyrood Palace, that's one that's the official residence of the British monarch. That's at the Royal Mile in Edinburgh. And it's been a royal residence since the 16th century. There it is. That's Holyrood. And that's a little picture inside. Balmoral, also, this was in the Highlands. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert just adored the Highlands. They bought this castle without looking at it. They never visited it. They bought it in 1848. And of course, it was worth buying because quite taken with it. And here's Queen Elizabeth, a little office there in that castle. More castles, many of them abandoned because castles were defensive and they were not built to be lived in. So when things became peaceful, people left the castles, and the castles just kind of just stood there and whatever, rotted away. Here's an aerial view of the castle you just saw. Blair Athol is still in use, still lived in by the Duke of Athol, open to visitors. And the Duke of Athol is the only person in Europe with his own private army. There's his castle, and I visited the castle. Here's his army in front of the castle, and they have their little cannon there. And I was at the castle because there was Highland Games going on, and I wanted to go see it. But at this moment, I was standing in front of the castle before I went off to look at the Highland Games. And as I was standing there, the Duke came out of his castle, and he spotted me. And he started to walk towards me with his entourage. And here's this guy with his own army. And for some reason, I caught his eye because I was wearing US Army combat boots. And he walked up to me and he looked me in the face and he pointed to my boots and he said, "Jolly good idea." So that was my experience with the Duke of Athol. Scotland and St. Louis, we have opportunities. To have various events here in St. Louis. Scottish Games are the big festival that happens in May. And as I mentioned, Scottish Arms didn't sell haggis anymore. And if you wanted haggis, you had to go across the Missouri River to St. Charles and go to a place called the English Shop. And they had imported haggis, two kinds, your regular haggis and your vegetarian haggis. And some people said, regular haggis sounds terrible. Vegetarian haggis sounds twice as terrible. But in Scotland, they're going to show you a menu from a Glasgow restaurant. There is the haggis on their menu, haggis, neeps, and tatties. The neeps are the turnips, the tatties are the potatoes. And you notice it says a vegetarian version is available. And I think what they do is they substitute lentils for the meat products. In any event, that's where you go if you want haggis. You have to buy it in a can here in St. Louis. The Scottish Arms, it's just a little sad. It was a very nice place to go and have a drink and so forth. But if you like whiskey, you have this Whiskey Single Malt Society. Here is Dance Caledonia. They are Highland dancers. Pretty much these are individual dancers, often dancing side by side. But Highland Mist, which is the group that I teach, I'm the guy in the purple shirt. We dance with partners and dance patterns where the partners like move down the set or up the set. So every 32 bars, you're dancing with different people, and it's a more communal type of dancing. Pete Fire Flame is our Scottish band. And we have actually an organization that teaches Scottish arts and music in elementary school, or sees that elementary schools have that opportunity. And there's the Scottish St. Andrew Society. They are the main cultural institution promoting Scotland here in St. Louis. Interesting here in the photo is a quaish. Quaish, you notice, has two handles. You do not pick this quaish up by yourself. No, 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 no. You have to pick it up with a friend. You get one handle and your friend gets the other handle, and you drink communally out of the quaish. And here, of course, perfect for a wedding ceremony. And we have a learning group that learning Gaelic. And we have pipe bands. We have 5 of them. These are the firefighters pipe bands. Here are the names of the other 5 here in St. Louis. And the St. Charles Library will be sending you a list of these organizations, St. Louis organizations. And this company just reenacts, does historical reenactments called Sterling's Company. And we have clan organizations. 37 clans showed up this May at the St. Louis Scottish Games, and they're promoting their society. And then Tartan Day is in April, and that is celebrated on the other side of the Missouri River in St. Charles. And as you saw, we have a curling club, and there are curling enthusiasts here in St. Louis. And Missouri decided finally that it was going to have its own tartan. And it was 2019, not that long ago, but this is Missouri tartan, blue for rivers and green for fields and agriculture. Each color has a significance here in the Missouri State tartan. Okay, what's the Latin name for Scotland? By now, all of you should know it is Caledonia.
Now I'm sitting here before the fire, the empty room, the forest choir, the flames that couldn't get any higher, the river now they've gone. But I'm steady thinking my way is clear, and I know what I will do tomorrow.
call me. Now I'm going. If I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. With all and everything that So, Scotland, the Lion in the North. I'm Doug Schneider, and coming up next month, we'll be zooming cemeteries in St. Louis. And then in November, St. Louis takes to the air, aviation history. We sent the first airmail letter here from St. Louis. Okay, so those coming up, and sign up the same way you did for this. I'll be notifying you, or you'll see it on the calendar for the library. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing because we have asked people to put questions into the chat. And Shauna's going to tell me.
So I see a question here. Are the clans still of importance in Scotland?
In Scotland, I'm going to say yes. They do scholarships and that sort of thing, and they create a sense of community. When I was there at Blair Athol, I went to some Clan Murray events, and the answer is they're of some importance. I'm not going to say how much importance, but they still have an effect. They still have an effect. Mm-hmm. Okay.
A lot of thank yous, and the golden retriever was quite interesting.
Yes, that was a big surprise to me.
And then there's another question here. What is current economy?
The current economy, I'm not going to be able to answer that currently. How Scotland is doing. I'm not in touch with that. All right.
And then what animal's bladder was used for the bagpipes?
Oh, that'd be the sheep. That'd be the sheep.
Okay.
Yes.
They use a lot of animal bladders.
Well, they had a lot of sheep,
Okay.
but also, and if you go to Greece or you go to Sicily, their bagpipes there also are bladders. So that's just the general Mediterranean and European thing. Yes, yes. I also see a question, what do the different plaids represent? The plaids generally represent a clan. As you see, we have Missouri has a state plaid. Some plaids represent a clan funeral, and others are just general clan wear. And then I'm not sure how the military deals with clans and tartans in Scotland.
So here's one. Is Scotland a country? From Lynn.
Well, in their minds, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. The United Kingdom is a union of kingdoms. So they are a country that's joined in with other countries to create the United Kingdom. And they have tried to secede, but they have just lost the vote to secede. They especially got anxious when Brexit came along. But I just think, these people are Scottish first and British second. Mm-hmm.
And then one more I see. What form of money is used?
Oh, it's the same as British money.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's not. It's their money. The English have an English pound, and the Scots have a Scottish pound. The English pound is put out by the Bank of England. The Scottish pound is put out by the Bank of Scotland. And if you go visit the United Kingdom, go to England first and then to Scotland, because your English pound will be accepted in Scotland. But if you go to Scotland first, get Scottish money, and go south into England, they don't like it. The English don't like it. So,
So you'd have to exchange.
I have been stuck what am I gonna do with this Scottish 5-pound note? When I lived in London, nobody's taking it. It was almost like I should just put it in a drawer. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
the answer is, it's the same denomination, but it is put out by each country. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Michelle, you see anything else in the chat there?
Somebody mentioned that they have a friend in Scotland who sends many wonderful gifts from there to them, and also a subscription every year to the Scots Magazine. And
Oh.
they take it to their local St. Louis County Library
Oh,
when they're
okay.
done with them. So it's
Mhm.
neat.
Okay, okay. All right.
But
Any
I
more?
don't see any other questions now, not at this
All
time.
right. Doug, thank you for bringing this wonderful presentation to us, and thank you to our participants for joining us tonight. Keep an eye out for the follow-up email with the recording of this program and a survey. Thank you for completing this survey, as it will help us when we are planning future programs. Consider joining us for Doug's next presentation on Rest in Peace Cemeteries in St. Louis, and that's scheduled for Thursday, October 24th. It starts at 7 p.m. In addition, feel free to visit our website, stchlibrary.org, to explore more programs and events happening at the library, both in person or virtual, along with the many other services that we have to offer. And when you're on our website, you can go to our calendar there and sign up for that October 24th class, Rest in Peace Cemeteries in St. Louis. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay.